In today's class we will be studying about, we will continue the antigen antibody reactions. We had started off with diffusion. In the previous class we had studied about single diffusion technique, and here we will study about the example for single diffusion technique was RID, radial immunodiffusion. Here next we will be studying about double diffusion. Now what is the meaning of this double diffusion? Is both, there are two components which is going to get diffused across each other. That is, what are the two components that we are adding? We are adding antigen and we are adding antibody. Here antibody is also getting diffused in the agar gel, and the antigen is also getting diffused into the agar gel. They are moving, both of them are diffusing to form a precipitant. So that is why it is called as double diffusion technique. Example for that, and the test that is carried for this double diffusion technique is called as ODD, that is Auchterlonie double diffusion test. It is called as Auchterlonie double diffusion test. Now why do we do this Auchterlonie double diffusion test? This test is basically done to check the how identical two antigens are how identical the antigen is to a specific antibody. Are they identical, or are they partially identical, or are they not identical at all? In other words, are they homologous to each other? If yes, how closely they are related, or if they are not at all homologous to each other? That is what is checked here. So we are going to check here the identity or the effectiveness as to how what is the how close they are related, or how homologous they are to each other, that is antigen and antibody. So before moving on to the test, we should know, as we have studied, we should know a little bit, brush up about the properties. We have seen that an antigen has certain epitopes on its surface. To these epitopes, these are called as antigenic determinants, and to these epitopes the antibody will come and bind to. Now suppose we are having two antigens with each other, okay, and suppose the epitopes of both these antigens are exactly same. Antigen A we have and antigen B we have, and all the epitopes, say there are 10 epitopes in antigen A and there are 10 epitopes in antigen B, and all the 10 epitopes in both the antigens are exactly similar, then they are identical to each other. Suppose we have two antigens, and there are antigen A and there is antigen B, and there are 10 epitopes in both these antigens, and say there are 7 epitopes which are same in both the antigens, and the remaining 3 epitopes are different in both these antigens, then we can call them that they are partially similar. Okay, so partially identical, we can call these antigens, these two antigens are partially identical antigens, or they are partially similar antigens, because they are not identical, all the epitopes are not matching there. So in case we have two antigens with us, and these two antigens, the epitopes are not at all similar. We have antigen A and we have antigen B, and in both these antigens the epitopes are not at all same, even a single epitope do not match, then we call them as non-identical antigens. They are not at all similar to each other, they are totally different antigens. So that is what is done here in this test, that is Auchterlonie double diffusion, to check the similarity between the antigens. That is what is done here. So what is, how the experiment goes is, a gel is prepared. We had seen 1% agarose gel is prepared, and wells are created. Okay, there are 3 sets of wells that is created in the agarose inside the gel. There is nothing we add in the gel, just 1% agarose is added. Now why 1% and why agarose is added, all these things you can check in the previous recordings. Now I told you 3 sets of 3 wells each are made. Now what is added in these wells? Now let us concentrate on one set of 3 wells. Okay, if we are concentrating on this particular well, what happens? What are the things that is added? In one of the well, antibody is added. Okay, in one of the well, antibody is added. Now I want to check whether both the antigens are similar or not. Now how do I check? I will make these antigen to fuse or to react with a specific antibody, and you know that antigen and antibody reaction is specific to each other. So if they are similar, antibodies will bind. If they are not, they might not bind. So based on this, we are going to do the experiment. So in one of the well, we will add the antibody which can come and bind to the antigen. Then in the remaining 2 wells, we will add 2 different antigens, say antigen A and antigen B. We are going to add 2 different antigens, antigen A and antigen B, in these 2 wells. So now what do we have in the wells? In one well we have antibody, in the second well we have antigen 1 A, and in the third well we have antigen B. Now what we will add the antigen. After adding the antigen, we will place this for the reaction. We will keep it aside for the reaction to happen. Generally we can keep it at room temperature or in the incubator for around 18 to 24 hours. After 18 to 24 hours, the next day we will check for the result. Now what are the things are we supposed to see here? Now this is the antibody and these are the antigens that I have added. Now what will happen? Definitely antigens will diffuse in all the directions. This is the antigen, they will diffuse in all the possible directions. Okay, and this is the antibody. Antibody also will start diffusing in all the directions. Now how do I know that they have reacted? How do I know that there is a reaction between them? How do I know that they are similar? Suppose the junction at where the antigen and antibody binds, there will be a precipitation line that is formed. If there is a precipitation line that is formed, means I will know that yes, this antibody has reacted or has formed a complex with this particular antigen. Now if the 2 antigens that I have added are similar to each other. Now as I had given you the example in the beginning of the class or in the beginning of the recording, wherein when is the place or when do we find the 2 antigens similar? When the epitopes are same. So if the 2 antigens are exactly same, then we can find that there is a fusion of line. You can see this kind of a mark, that is, or the precipitation line formed is in the form of V here. Okay, so you can find, so if in the next day after incubation you find that the line formed, the precipitation line formed is in the form of an arc or in the form of a V here, then you can say that both these 2 antigens had common epitopes, had same epitopes, and that is the reason that you can find a V here, and hence you can say that both these antigens are identical to each other. Suppose if you find a cross, next day if you find a cross reaction or a cross precipitation line, then you will say we can say that the 2 antigens that you have added do not have same epitopes. They are non-identical to each other. So both these antigens do not have the same epitopes. Not even a single epitopes are same here in both these antigens. Now coming to the third one, suppose you get this kind of a Y-shaped structure. Partially there is a cross. Okay, so then we can say that it's not a complete cross but a partial cross. In this figure it is shown. Now if it is like this, then you can say that the both these antigens that I have added, they are partially similar to each other. That means some of the epitopes are same, but some of the epitopes are not same. So you can say that they are partially identical to each other. So looking at the precipitation lines that are formed, or the kind of the precipitation line that is produced after incubation, that is after 18 to 24 hours, we can say that what kind of antigens they are they similar, are they identical, are they non-identical, and are they partially identical to each other. So this is the example for double diffusion. Double diffusion means antigen is also getting diffused in the agarose, and the antibodies are also getting diffused in the agarose. So that is why it is called as double diffusion. An example for that is Ochterlony double diffusion test. So moving on to the next kind of precipitation reactions that we can see, that is the gel diffusion we have finished. Moving on to, if the diffusion happens, or suppose if the precipitation reaction, agglutination happens in a liquid medium, very good example for that is your blood grouping. I want to do the blood grouping test. Very good example for that, agglutination in liquid medium. Very good example is your blood grouping. Now what exactly is this? For that, let us understand what is this blood grouping. Every organism, every person, human blood group is basically, it is categorized into different types, or they are grouped into different types. That is blood group A, blood group, some of them belong to blood group A, some of them belong to B, some of them belong to AB, and some of them belong to O. Now what does this mean? We all know that in our blood there are RBCs. Okay, now these RBC, the red blood cells, they have certain antigenic structures on them. Okay, they have certain antigens present on the surface of the RBCs. Now these antigens are the one based on which we are classified into different blood groups. Now if the antigens present on the RBCs, if they have A antigens present on the RBC, then they are called as those kind of they belong to blood group A. Remember, on the RBC, if they have antigen A, then they are A blood group people. Now if they have antigen A on the surface of RBC, the opposite antibody will be present in the plasma. That is, they have A antigens on the RBC, they have anti-B antibody in the plasma. They cannot have the same antibody. If they have the same antibody, suppose the person has A antigen and they have A antibody in the plasma, then what will happen? They will be homologous to each other. The antibody will react with the antigen and hence will result in agglutination, and the entire blood will start agglutinating, and entire blood will start precipitating, and then definitely the person will die. So the opposite antibody will be there in the plasma. If the person on the RBC, if they have antigen B, then they will have anti-A antibody in the plasma. So such type of people are called as they belong to blood group B. Suppose a person will have both these kind of antigens, that is, they have antigen A also on the RBC, they have antigen B also on the RBC. Such type of people are called as they belong to blood group AB. Then since both the antigens are there on the surface of the RBC, definitely there will be no antibodies in the plasma, no antibodies in the plasma. So such type of people belong to blood group AB. There are some people who on the RBC do not have any antigens. There are no antigens on the surface of the RBC, but in the plasma there are two antibodies, that is anti-A, anti-B antibodies. So such type of blood is called as an O group. Now there is one more antigen which is called as D antigen. Now on the RBC, if the person is having D antigen on the surface, then those people are called as positive. Like for example, if a person is having antigen A on the surface of RBC and also antigen D on the surface of RBC, then that person is called as A positive, or that person belongs to the blood group A positive. Suppose the person's RBC or the RBC has only A antigens and do not have the D antigens on the surface of RBC, then the blood group is A negative. The same thing holds good with all the other types of RBC surface antigens. Now how do we carry out the test? Now we will take on the glass slide, we will take 3 drops of blood. On the glass slide we will take 3 drops of blood. Okay, now what will the blood have? The blood will have the antigens which is there on the RBC. So it will have the antigens. Now I will add anti-B. I will add antibodies or anti-sera. So in the first drop I will add antibody A. Okay, or it is called as anti-sera A. In the second drop I will add antibody B or anti-sera B, and in the third one I will add D anti-sera. Now suppose if the person is belonging to blood group A, I had added one drop of blood, and if the person's if the person had antigen A on the surface of the RBC, I have added anti-sera A. The antigen was there on the RBC. I have added the antibody. A antibody. They both are homologous to each other. They will react and form a complex, and once the complex is formed, we can see a visible agglutination reaction. So we will check for the same thing holds good for B. If the person, I have added antibody B, if the person is having antigen B on the surface of the RBC, then they will be homologous to each other. They will react and form a complex, and which we can see as agglutination. Same thing holds good with D also. If there is no precipitation that is formed, then what can we call? We will say that the person, the blood or the RBC did not have that particular antigen. So this is how it is shown. Now here in this particular picture, in this particular diagram, A is showing precipitation and D is showing precipitation. So which means the blood group is A positive. This is not showing any precipitation. Now here in the second one, A does not show any precipitation, B shows precipitation, and this also shows precipitation. So it is B positive. So this is how we will check for the blood group. This test is a rapid platform test, and quickly we will get the result here. So this is about the blood grouping. Next, moving on to the complement fixation test. This is another test, antigen antibody reaction test. This is a indirect test because we are not finding for the presence of antigens, but we are finding for the presence of antibodies. If antibodies are there, then we will say okay, its specific antigen was also present in the patient's serum. So what do we do in this complement fixation test? Before that, we should know what is this complement. Though we will not go into the details of this complement. Complement is one particular reaction wherein the complement binds with the antigen antibody complex. When the complement finds an antigen antibody complex, the complement binds to this, and the protein, this complement is made up of fragments of proteins. This complement finally goes and destroys the antigen. It will lyse the antigen. So taking this baseline, let us see what is this complement fixation test. Now we will take, in a test tube, we will take the patient's serum. Now, if the patient is suffering from a particular disease, if a patient is suffering from a particular infection, then the patient's body, the patient's serum will produce antibodies against that particular antigen. Say that the serum that we had taken had those antibodies. I cannot see whether antibodies were there or not, but taking an example, we will take an example, if the patient serum had, or the person is suffering from that particular infection, or if the person is not suffering from. So here I do not know whether the person is having the infection or not. So in this we will consider the person is suffering from a particular infection, and hence when I took the serum it had the antibodies. In another case, when I took the patient's serum, the patient's serum did not have any antibodies. So in this particular test tube I just have the serum without the antibodies. Next, I will know for a particular, I will suspect one presence of one particular antigen. So probably I will be checking for that particular antigen in the patient's serum based on the symptoms that he is suffering from. So in both the test tubes, in this test tube what I have done, I have taken the patient's serum which has the antibodies which I do not know. Here again I have taken another person's the serum which do not have the antibodies. Again I cannot see them. Next, what do? I will add the antigens, a prepared antigens already known, because I know that I am checking for this specific antibody. Hence what I will do is I will add antigens. Okay, in this test tube I will add antigen, in this test tube also I will add antigen. Now what will happen is, if the antibodies are specific to that particular antigen, they will form a complex. Antigen will bind to the antibody. In this case, since there were no antibodies, the antigen will be free flowing in the serum. There is no antibodies here, only antigens are present. But here when I added the antigen, it immediately goes and binds to the antibody, and hence all the antibodies and antigens that are there are bound to each other, and they form a complex. So this is the second step. Next step, what do we do is we will add the complement protein. I told you complement is a cascade of reactions which is made up of many different fragments of proteins. So I will add the complement protein in both these tests. Now the complement here that I have added will bind to only the antigen antibody complex. Suppose if there was a free antigen or a free antibody, the complement will not bind. Okay, and to which part of the antibody it will bind? It will bind to the Fc part of the antibody. You know the structure of antibody. This is how the structure of antibody is, and this will be the Fc portion. So it will bind to the Fc region of the antigen antibody complex. If the antigen was free, or if the antibody was free, the complex is not there, the complement also will not go and bind to it. So in this case, when I am adding the complement, what will happen is, since already a complex is there, the complement easily can come and will bind to it because it identifies the complex. But here what happens when I am adding the complement, since there is no antigen and antibody complex, only antigen is there, the complement also will not bind to anything, that also will remain free floating in the sample, in the serum sample. So this is the third step. Here the complement is already getting fixed to the antigen antibody complex. The complement has got fixed. So hence the name complement fixation test. Complement has already got fixed to the complex, but here complement has not got fixed to it because it did not find the complex. Okay, so since the complement is binding or it is getting fixed to the antigen antibody complex, the name has come as complement fixation test. Okay, what is the next step is I will add the sheep's RBC into the reaction. I will add the sheep's RBC into the reaction mixture. Now, before moving into the further steps, we will have to know a little bit as to how the secondary antigenous antibody is prepared here. Now what will happen here is, now these sheep's RBCs are taken, and they have to be prepared first. Sheep's RBCs are taken and these sheep's RBCs are injected into the rabbit. Now for the rabbit, the sheep RBC is considered as an antigen. So the rabbit now will start producing antibodies against the sheep RBC. Okay. Now if I remove the sheep RBC, it will remain a sheep RBC, and if I remove the serum from the rabbit, it will have antibodies, and these antibodies will identify the sheep RBCs as a antigen. Okay. Now here you remember that the complement has already bound, it is already fixed to the antigen antibody complex. Now here what happens is, when I am adding, the next step is I will add the sheep's RBC into both the reaction mixture. When I add the sheep's RBC, it will just be there in the sample. Along with the sheep's RBC, I will add the antibodies that is produced by the rabbit, which acts against the sheep's RBC. Okay. So the antibody that I have taken from the rabbit, now those antibodies are specific to the sheep RBC. The antibodies are secondary antibodies there, and those antibodies are now considering the sheep RBCs as antigens. Okay. And I also told that a complement binds to the antigen antibody complex, and the complement will destroy the antigen. Now here in this case, what is happening is, since already the complement has bound to the antigen antibody complex, the sheep's RBCs goes unidentified. Okay. And the RBCs bind to the sheep's RBC, rabbit's antibody. The sheep's RBC binds to the rabbit's antibody. They form a complex and they remain there. But remember, the complement is not getting fixed to the sheep RBC antigen antibody complex. Why? Because already the complement has bound to this. There are no free complement proteins there. So hence what happens, the RBCs remains unlysed, so the entire solution remains red in color. Or if you keep it undisturbed, the RBCs settle down, the RBC antigen antibody complex settle down, and red precipitate is being formed there. Just the red RBC cells are getting settled down. Now in this case what happens, that the antigens were free, complement proteins were also free. Here in this step, what we had done, antigens were free, complement was also free. I have added the sheep's RBC, which is acting as an antigen. I told you how it is acting as an antigen, and specific to that, antibodies are also added. Now what happens is, the sheep's RBC reacts with the rabbit's antibody. How they are produced, I had told you. They both form a complex, and hence now once this antigen antibody complex is formed, the complement is anyway free. This complement will now come and bind to the sheep RBC, which is antigen now, which is acting as an antigen. And what did I tell you? That the antigen now will get easily lysed, because the complement will come and destroy the RBC. So the complement will come and bind to the antibody, that is a rabbit's antibody. The sheep's RBC is acting as an antigen, so complement will come and bind to the rabbit RBC antibody, and it will lyse, or it will destroy the RBC. If the RBC gets destroyed, what will happen to the color of the solution? Definitely it will lose the red color. The red is because of the RBC in the blood, isn't it? It becomes pale pink, or the red color is lost. So if the color remains, then we can say that all the patient serum had the antibodies. Because the patient serum had antibodies, it formed a complex, and because the complex was formed, the complement has bound to it, it has got fixed to it, and hence nothing happened to the RBCs. But here we can say that patient serum did not have antibodies. Since it did not have antibodies, when I added antigens, nothing happened to them. And since when I added the complement, again they did not have anybody to bind to, they were free. And when I added the antigen antibody complex from the sheep and the RBC, the complement which was free has now come and bound to the antigen antibody complex, and thus destroyed or lysed the sheep RBC, which acted as an antigen. So this is called as complement fixation test. So if the lysis happens, the color changes, we can say the test is negative. If the color remains red, which means the lysis has not happened, we can say the test is positive. The patient had the antibodies, and since the patient had the antibodies, antigens definitely were there in his body. So this is it about the today's class. In the next class we will study the next set of antigen antibody reactions. Thank you.